as well. Let me move our attention to the Word of God found in 1 Samuel chapter 17. And I want to read verses 45 through 47. And I'll refer to much of the chapter in this narrative. But our place of reading will be 1 Samuel chapter 17, verses 45 through 47. While you are turning, we certainly thank God for Sister Williams as well, and also for her blessing our hearts through song. 1 Samuel chapter 17, beginning reading at verse 45. Then said David to the Philistine, "Thou comest to me with the sword, with the spear, and with the shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands." Use for subject tonight, how to deal with your giant. How to deal with your giant. Every person in every generation at some point in their lives faces overwhelming odds. Everybody knows what it's like in some type of situation to be the underdog. Problems are a part of life. It does not matter who you are, where you live, who you know, how much money you make. Everybody faces some kinds of problems in life. And those problems, once again, often cause us to feel that we are fighting to try and overcome the odds. We can learn from this experience as we look at David and Goliath. We can learn again about how God is able to take the underdog. God is able to take the minority. God is able to take us when we feel that we are facing overwhelming odds and still give us the victory. God can show us how to deal with the giants that are in our lives. And so therefore we need not live in a state of fear. We need not always be overly concerned about those things that are coming against us, because we are aware of the fact that the God that we serve has a good record with minorities. He has a good record with underdogs, with those who are overwhelmed. So tonight, let's look together in this experience with David as to how we deal with our giant. The first thing you do if you're going to deal with your giant is you need to describe it. Now, when David thinks about his particular giant, his giant is a person named Goliath. Goliath is a very large human being. Goliath, the Bible says, is almost 10 feet tall. Not only is he almost 10 feet tall, but he has 125 pounds of armor that he's wearing. He doesn't weigh 125 pounds. He is wearing 125 pounds in armor. Also, he has a very large spear with him, and the handle on his spear is like a large tree trunk almost. And at the end of it, he has a spearhead, and the spearhead itself, just the head of his spear, weighs 15 pounds. So here is this huge individual that is a giant that David has to face. And also, he is a champion, and he, the Bible says, has been a champion from his youth. He's been fighting a long time. He has come up against many individuals over the span of his life, and he has always been victorious. That's why they refer to him as a champion. Now, David's other fellow Israelites have also seen Goliath. He is their giant as well. As they look at this giant named Goliath, Goliath comes out to face the army of Israel as he is standing there with the army of the Philistines. Every day he comes out and makes fun of them, and he makes fun of their God. He's standing on one side of the valley, they are standing on the other side of the valley. He keeps calling out and challenging them, saying, "Why don't you send to fight me? And if your man can defeat me, then what we will do is we will allow you to make us your slaves. If your man can defeat me, then we will become your slaves." And so instead of everybody fighting, why don't you just send somebody out? as they looked at that giant, they were shaking in their boots. They were doing a whole lot of talking, but they weren't doing much action. They were standing there, they were listening to him talk to them, and they were speaking to one another. Every morning they kept on getting up. They kept on putting on their battle array. They kept on getting in their formations, but all they did was simply look across the valley at this giant. One of the things that I think that can help us understand is that sometimes when you're facing your giant in life, you have to be very careful as you describe it, that first of all, you don't let it mesmerize you. Because sometimes the problems that we face in life, sometimes the enemies, whatever it is that becomes a giant to us, it can mesmerize you. It can take your attention to such a degree that that's all you think about and that's all you talk about. Some people have an enemy in the form of a person, and they wake up in the morning talking about that person, and all day long they're talking about that person, and they're talking and telling people how that person doesn't like them and how that person is trying to get them fired or all kinds of things. They're just mesmerized by that particular person. That person has their undivided attention. That's how the Israelite army was. They were looking at Goliath and just imagining who can fight a man that's almost 10 feet tall and weighs 100 and wears 125 pounds worth of armor. They were mesmerized by him. That's all they could think about. They forgot all about the God of Israel because they were looking at this giant. Their life was centered and focused on the biggest thing in their life. And at this point, the biggest thing in their life, the baddest thing in their life, the thing that they felt would control their life was this big, huge person named Goliath. And Goliath was challenging them, and they were mesmerized by him. Now, not only was they mesmerized by him, but they were also terrified. You know, because if you look at your problem long enough, and if that's all you're looking at, after being mesmerized, the next stage is to be terrified. Now you become afraid of it. Now that you believe that you cannot win. Now you believe that you cannot go on. Now you believe that whatever you're looking at is greater than you are. And now you believe that you're going to lose even though you've not even started a fight. Now you believe that you're going to get run over when you still have a great distance between you and the problem. You already see yourself being defeated. You already had your own funeral. You've already written your own obituary because of the fact that when you look at what is against you, you believe that you cannot make it. And so you get terrorized by it because that's all you look at, that's all you think about, that's all you talk about. So that is the fact that now they are mesmerized, they are terrorized, and then finally they become paralyzed. Because when you get mesmerized by something that you believe is against you, and you let it stay on your mind long enough till you are terrorized, then the next thing is you're paralyzed. You just can't move. You know you ought to do something, but you can't do anything because you're so terrified that now you are paralyzed. You might do a whole lot of talking, but you don't do any walking because you are terrorized, and it's caused you to be paralyzed. You might have a lot of meetings about something ought to be done, but you never get around to doing anything because you are terrorized because of what has mesmerized you. You've looked at your problem for so long. You've looked at your giant for so long that again it has your undivided attention. It is something that you feel overwhelms you, and as a result of that, you see yourself as being unable to move. And so that's where this army of Israel was. When they described their problem, that's how they felt about it. Now notice David is different. David shows up, his father sends him to help his brothers and to take them some food, and also the captain of the host. He tells him, go take them some food. And when David goes to take them some food, his brothers want to know why he's there, and they say, you're always starting trouble. Now they won't say anything to the giant, but they're jumping on their little brother. So they tell him about all the problems that they have with him. And then David takes a totally different attitude than they take toward him. David says, why are we letting them talk about our God like that? Why are we standing over here shaking in our boots like that? Why doesn't somebody go and fight him? You see, this is what David decided. David's mindset was, yes, I see the giant, but I'm not going to glorify him. I'm not going to make it more than what he is. I'm not going to magnify him. I'm not going to give him all of this attention. And I am not going to let him be the center of my life. David says, yes, I know we have a problem. I know there's a giant on the other side of the valley. I know that there are certain things that we are facing, but I'm not going to glorify. I'm not going to magnify. David says, I'm going to simplify. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at this problem. I'm going to analyze it, and I'm going to simplify it. David says, listen, you all are frightened, you all are calling all that. David says, to me, he's just a big Philistine. He's a big one. But he's still just a Philistine. He's a man. He's a man just like any other man. He can be defeated just like any other man can be defeated. He can be overcome just like anybody else can be overcome. I'm not going to make a God out of Goliath. He is a man. And I'm going to face it like he's a man because I've simplified it to the fact that he's a man, and if he's a man, he can be defeated in a fight. Sometimes in our own life, when we look at our problem, we have to just finally simplify it and make it what it is. Sometimes you can be looking at a bill that's so big that you act like it's something that it cannot be overcome when you're losing sight of the fact it's still a bill. That's what it is. It's money that needs to be paid. You paid money before. I've never paid that much money before, but you have paid money before. It's a bill. It's a habit that you need to overcome. It's a human being that you are facing. It's an uncertainty in life that it is not a deity. It is not something that cannot be dealt with. Don't let something in your life take the place in your life where you make it more than what it is. Don't glorify it. Don't magnify it. Simplify it. David says he's just a man. He's a big Philistine. And so his mindset toward Goliath was, you're a big man, but you're still just a man. You have a lot of armor, but it's still just armor. You have a big spear, but it's still just a spear. So I don't need to fear you like my comrades are fearing you. I need to see you for what you are. You are a man. And so David has described it, but David's description of it is in a simplified way where he says, you are a big Philistine. The next step after you describe it is you have to defy it. David's position was, why are we letting this big Philistine defy our God and keep us from being who we know we are? Why are we hanging out on this side of the valley, letting our community be terrorized, living beneath what God desires for us to have and to experience as a nation? Why are we putting up with this? Why are we subjecting ourselves to this? Why are we letting this giant control us? David's mindset was, listen, we got a situation here, but what we need to do is we need to take charge of our situation. We need to decide we are going to do something about our situation. We need to decide the chatter is over. We need to decide it's time to end the meeting. It's time to say the benediction. It's time to close the door. We need to get down to business. We need to take care of this situation. David's position was, what? Don't we have a cause? Don't we have a reason to rectify this situation? Don't we have something that's worth fighting for? Isn't it worth our putting our attention, our effort, and our energy into changing this situation? Why would we allow things to stay as they are when we have ability and power to change things? David says, you all can stay here quibbling if you want to. I'm not going to take that position. I am not going to let him defy our God without me defying him. David says, I'm going to take charge of the situation. David says, I refuse to let him control me. And so David says, I'll tell you what, I'll go fight him. Let me go fight. Now, once David said he was going to go fight him, once David decided that he was going to do something, then they started trying to talk David out of doing anything. You have to be careful when people who won't do anything themselves start trying to talk you out of doing something. People who have just been chattering and talking and doing nothing now don't want to see you do anything. And so they told him, listen, you are just a little boy. You are too young. This man has been fighting men from his youth, and you are just a youth now. So they put all of these labels on him. But what David's mindset was is he refused to accept the labels people put on him. You know, if you're not careful, if you don't know who you are, people will name you. If you don't know who you are, people will try to define you. If you don't know who you are, people will tell you what you can never be. But when you know who you are, you don't have to accept other people's labels. When you know who you are, you can let people know you can call me whatever you want to call me. But just because you call me that doesn't make me that. You can't make me change who I understand myself to be by putting a label on me. So they say, David, you're too young, you can't do it. But David's mindset was, I will go and fight this Philistine because there is a cause, there is a reason to fight him. And then David said, listen, Because Saul said, here, use my armor. David tried it on, and David took it off and said, well, this doesn't really suit me. It doesn't really fit me. I can't fight in your armor. And in his mind, David might also be thinking, it ain't doing you no good. You standing over here trembling in your boots, now you're going to give me your armor. I tell you what, let me just do what I've always been doing. Now notice what David said, because he has simplified this situation. David says, I'm remembering what I've already done. Sometimes you have to remember your past successes. Sometimes you have to remember this is not the first fight you've been in. Sometimes you have to remember this is not the first time you faced overwhelming situations. This is not the first time you've been the underdog. This is not the first time you've been in a situation where it seemed like you could not win. This is not the first time you've been in a situation where you could not see your way out. This is not the first time when you've not had enough resources to deal with what was going on. This is not the first time you've been in a situation where you didn't have everybody on your side helping you. Don't forget what you've already been through. Don't forget victories and successes that you've already had, because what God brought you through back then can give you courage to go through what you're facing right now. So David simplified it, and David said, I want to just give you a little of my history. He said, I know you all are saying I'm just a shepherd boy and I've just been out there tending to our father's sheep. But he said, I want you to know that while I was tending to the sheep, he says, one day a lion showed up. And a lion took one of the sheep and started running off with it. He says, I want you to know that when the lion did that, I ran after the lion. And I grabbed the lion. And I beat the lion. I defeated the lion. And I took the sheep back. I'm telling you, he said, I've already been in a fight before. He said, but not only did the lion come, but a bear came as well. He said, a bear came and a bear took one of the sheep. But he said, I ran the bear down. And after I ran the bear down, I beat the bear and I took the sheep back. And I just want you to know I've been in more than one fight. I've been in a fight with a lion, and I've been in a fight with a bear. And each time I have been victorious, and I've taken the sheep back. You know, sometimes you got to remind yourself, I beat a bear. Every now and then you have to just remind yourself, I beat a bear. There has been a time in my life when I beat a bear. What have you already been through? What have you already handled? Hasn't that helped you understand that just because it looks one way doesn't mean that that's the way it really is? Doesn't that help you understand that you were defeated in the past, God still gave you victory? David's mindset was, I already beat a bear. Who would have thought I could beat a bear? Who would have thought I would still be here today? Who would have thought I would have survived what I've already survived? Who would have thought I would have made it through what I've already been through? Who would have thought I would have overcome things that were already against me? I beat a bear. When you start thinking about you already beat a bear, it ought to increase your confidence. So as it relates to his mindset, David is defiant now against Goliath, and his mindset seems to be this. His mindset seems to be, I beat a lion, I beat a bear, and so he's looking at Goliath saying, next. You are just next in the line. I've been fighting for a while now, so I fought a lion, beat the lion, fought a bear, beat the bear, next. You just need to get in line, Goliath, because just like I beat them, I'm going to beat you too. Just like I got through them, I'm going to get through you as well. You ought to have a mindset that says, I don't care what I'm facing now, just like I got through yesterday, I'm going to get through today as well. I have made up my mind I'm not going to be defeated. I'm going to defy what is against me, and I'm going to move forward and fight it. And so first of all, you have to describe it, then you have to defy it, and then lastly, you have to defeat it. One of the things that often happens with our churches, with our neighborhoods, as well as our individual lives is, once again, many times we always talk about the fight but never get in the fight. At some point you have to do it. At some point you have to have some action steps. At some point you have to dry your eyes, you have to stop crying, you have to roll up your sleeves and decide you're going to do something about the situation. At some point you have to decide, I'm going to take some initiative. At some point you have to decide, I'm going to have some kind of plan. At some point I'm not going to just keep getting pushed around. At some point I'm not going to keep on acting like I'm a loser. At some point I've got to start acting like a winner. At some point I have to start acting like a champion. At some point, I have to start doing those things that are necessary to turn my situation around. So David's mindset was, I'm ready to go and fight. I'm going to defeat this giant. So no matter what it is that you're facing in your life tonight, let me ask you, what are you going to do about it? I've heard you talk about it. But what are you going to do about it? We have issues in our churches, but what are we going to do about it? We will often hear people saying, our young people today is just a shame. They're just on the street and we can't get them here, we can't get them there, and it's just a shame our young people are just moving in the wrong direction. Okay. But at some point, we have to ask ourselves, what are you going to do about it? Well, the drug dealers, they're just out there, they're taking our young people. Listen to what you just said. The drug dealer is out there. If the drug dealer is out there and the children are out there, why are we in here? At some point, we got to do something. At some point, we have to say, we got to make a move. So David says, enough chat. David says it's time to fight. But if you want to defeat it, you have to first of all face it, then fight it, and finally fix it. You cannot get it straight until you first of all face it. You have to just be real. I do have a problem. He is a giant. He is bigger than me. I have to just face the fact I have some issues. In our churches, yes, we have some issues. In our community, yes, we have some issues. In our own personal lives, in our family lives, yes, we have some issues. We have some things that have gone wrong. We have some things that have fallen apart. We have some things that appear to be overwhelming. We have some things that have come about as reversals in our life. We have some things that we wish were different. We have some things that we are experiencing because maybe of failures and mistakes and sinfulness in our own life. We have these things. We have to face it. Yes, I have a problem. It's all right to have a problem. It's all right for things to be wrong. It's all right to come up against something. But David says, before I can fix it, I have to face it. I have to acknowledge the fact that there is a problem. And just because there is a problem does not mean that I will not go forward. But David says, I am prepared to face it. I'm not hiding. I'm trusting. And so this is what David did. Everybody else has been standing on the other side of the valley. They've been shaking in their boots. David starts running toward the giant. That's when you know the Lord is working with you. When you start running toward the trouble. When you start running toward your problem. When you start saying to your problem, here I am. I'm not hiding. Here I am, I'm ready for a fight. Here I am, I'm ready to take charge. Here I am, I'm ready for change. Here I am, I'm ready to do something about my deliverance. I see you, but I'm not hiding, I'm trusting. I believe that the same God who helped me with the lion and the same God who helped me with the bear is the same God who can help me with you, Goliath. I'm not hiding, I'm trusting. And therefore he faces Goliath and then he runs toward him to fight him. So he runs toward the fight. That's the challenge that we have, whether or not we're running toward the fight, whether or not we made up our mind to do something, and then once we made it up in our mind to do something, that our action supports that. So David could have been standing there all he wanted to, talking about what he was going to do, but now David is running toward the fight. And as he runs toward the fight, David therefore gets his slingshot, and he already has a slingshot, and he gets some little smooth stones out of the brook. Now, David had always had a slingshot, and David, again, had been accustomed to dealing with enemies. It was his faith and trust in God that had brought him this far. So already David has told Saul, no, thank you for your armor. He's already told all of those who were putting him down that I'm not trusting in you, I'm trusting in God. And so as David now is running toward the fight, David is running toward the fight with his focus fixed on God. He is thinking about the fact that my God is able. He is looking at the giant, but notice what David has also come to the place of doing. His comrades were mesmerized, they were terrified, they were paralyzed because they were looking at Goliath. David has strength because now he's not really looking so much at Goliath, he's looking at his God. And let me tell you what happens. When you just look at your problem, it will terrify you. When you just look at your problem, it really will seem big. But when you start looking at your God, when you start looking at your God, then you start looking at your problem, and you start looking at your God, and you start looking at your problem, and you start saying, my problem is big, but God is bigger. You keep on looking at your God, and you keep on looking at your problem, and you start asking yourself, why am I acting like a wimp when God is on my side? Why am I acting so fearful when God is on my side? Why am I operating out of fear instead of operating out of faith with God on my side? The God that I serve made Goliath. The God that I serve made the armor that he's wearing. The God that I serve grew the tree that he got his spear handle from. Why am I afraid of Goliath when God is on my side? His mindset seems to be, if God be for me, it doesn't matter who is against me. If God is on my side, it doesn't matter that I'm the underdog. If God be for me, God can give me victory despite whatever circumstances I am facing. So David ran toward Goliath. He took his slingshot because he's about to fix this situation. He took his slingshot, he took his stone, he whirled it around, and he hurled it toward Goliath. I know now you got your GPS in your car, but before you got your GPS in your car, God already had his global positioning system. God took that little stone, he guided it right where it needed to go. Goliath had armor on all around him, he had a helmet on his head, but he had a spot right there that was not covered. Let me tell you something. I don't care how mean your enemy looks, God knows the weak spot. I don't care how big your problem is, God knows how to make your giant fall. I don't care how much the odds seem to be against you. When God is on your side, you are the overwhelming favorite. When God is on your side, you are no longer the victim. Now you are the victor. When God is on your side, you are no longer a chump. Now you're the one that gets to be the champion. David ran toward him, and David said, listen, I'm about to fix this situation. He said, you came against me with your sword and with your spear. But I came against you, not with a sword, not with a spear, but I come against you in the name of the Lord. My hope is not in myself. My hope is in God. My hope is not in my ability. My hope is in God's ability. Everything I'm not, God is. Everything I don't have, God has in great supply. Everywhere I have not been, God has already been. God created it. God is there. Everything that I need, I can find it in God. I come against you in the name of the Lord. My comrades think I'm in trouble because you are so big. I know you are in trouble because God is so big. My comrades are looking at you and they're impressed with you. I'm looking at God, so I'm unimpressed with you because I'm so impressed with God. I'm telling you today, Goliath, God is going to defeat you. I'm telling you, Goliath, you're getting ready to fall. I'm telling you, Goliath, you've been defying my God. You've been wondering if he's real. I'm telling you today, God is going to show up. And when God shows up, he's going to show out. When God gets through with you, everybody is going to know that there is a God in Israel. Let me tell you as I close tonight, you just got to put your confidence in the Lord. Yes, we have trouble. Yes, things come up against us. Yes, we seem to be overwhelmed at times. But the God that we serve can give us victory no matter what the situation might be. David defeated Goliath, and then the Israelites got courage. Sometimes somebody is waiting on you to stand up. Sometimes somebody's waiting on you to make a move. Sometimes somebody needs to see your faith. Sometimes somebody who's memorized and terrorized and paralyzed, they need to see you get up. They need to see you stand up to the situation. They need to see you step out on faith. They need to see you trusting in the Lord and not hiding in the shadow. And when they see what God can do for you, it will give them confidence that if God could do it for you, God could do it for them too. I wish I could keep giants from showing up in your life. I wish I could keep trouble from showing up at your locale. I wish I could keep everybody from being against you. I wish I could keep reversals from happening in your life. I wish I could keep calamities and trouble from showing up at your doorstep. I can't stop any of that. But I can tell you is that every giant you defeat, every giant you face, no matter how you describe it, every giant that you face, sickness in your body, habits that you're wrestling with, whatever giant you face, financial difficulty and problem, whatever giant you face, if you put your trust in God, God can give you victory. God takes a bad situation and still turns it around. One Friday evening, out on a hill called Calvary, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the one who came to save men from their sin, he looked so weak. They took him and manhandled him. They stretched him out on a cross. They thrust a spear in his side, put a crown of thorns on his head. He sure looked so weak. He looked like the underdog. He looked like all the odds were against him. And then finally he died. What do you do with a dead Jesus? What do you do to save others could not save himself. What do you do when the one who came to fight for you looked like he got those who were defeating you? They took him down, buried him in a marble tomb. But most of you know the story that early Sunday morning, God raised him up from the dead. He had victory, he had power, he defeated even the giant of death. If God can raise up a dead Jesus, God can handle your little situation. If God can raise up a dead Jesus, there's nothing that he cannot do. If God can raise up a dead Jesus, God can give you victory. God has keeping power. God has resurrection power. God has saving power. God has keeping power. David said, I'm not going to act like you are a giant. I'm going to act like you just a Philistine, and I'm going to come against you in the name of the Lord. Whatever you're facing tonight, go against it in the name of the Lord. Whatever you're facing tonight, go against it in the name of the Lord. Whatever you're facing tonight, trust God for your victory. Whatever you're going against tonight, see yourself winning. Whatever you're going against tonight, know that there's nothing that can come against you in the form of a giant that God cannot defeat. Go out tonight and kill a giant. Go out tonight and defeat something. Go out tonight and act like you're a child of God. Go out tonight and act like you know what God can do. You already killed a bear. Go out tonight and kill a giant. Tell your neighbors, I'm going to kill a giant tonight.